Good morning. Good morning, my beautiful friends. This is your wake up call with Maui Paul. I am Maui Paul. We are here today to say some nice things about ourselves. So the question of the day is, what is your go-to comfort food? I know, uh, I know that sometimes when I'm eating, it's not because I'm hungry that I'm eating, but because my mouth is bored, or because even more than my mouth is bored, that it sparks a memory from childhood or something like that. I was having some spaghetti the other day, and I was just thinking about the spaghetti dinner I was eating and how it was just so basic. It was just a spaghetti noodles and a tomato sauce and a whole bunch of Parmesan cheese on top. And as I was eating it, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, it's decent spaghetti. It's not great spaghetti, but it's decent spaghetti. And at the same time, it tastes so much better than it really ought to. And I just realized at that point that yeah, it was comfort food. I was eating it because it was sparking a memory, not because I was hungry and not because it tasted amazing, but because it made me feel a certain way. And so it looks like you guys have plenty of those yourself. So I want to say good morning to Amanda. Good morning to Dan. Amanda likes her Southern cooking. Good morning, Nicole. Good morning, Shauna. Good morning, Lauren. Let's see here. Shauna likes her bacon. I know you do, Shauna. Brenna Jean says she's trying to break the comfort food maladaptive coping mechanism. I do love coffee, even decaf, black with stevia, so it's not too damaging. A nice cup, if not hot herbal tea is soothing. So a nice cup of hot herbal tea. Yeah, I like a cup of herbal tea myself. That's one thing that I will do in the morning. And I actually try to stay away from caffeine because there are so many folks who are caffeine dependent in my job and stuff. They're always talking about how they need to have their coffee. And so I just don't want to get into that kind of a dependency. So I'll do a caffeine-free herbal tea in the morning. Lauren says her comfort food is good Chinese, and Amanda likes dark chocolate with something crunchy in it. It's funny how it's not just the taste of the food, but the texture of the food that we sometimes are very interested in. And Dan likes ice cream and bacon. All right, guys. So yeah, one of my comfort foods is, like I said, that just inexpensive red spaghetti with red sauce and Parmesan cheese on it, the type that you feed children nationwide. And another comfort food of mine that is actually quite a bit better for me is the cup of herbal tea that I start every morning with. So, all right, guys, thanks so much for answering that question of the day. So we are going to get into the wake up call. I'm going to ask you if you are the affirmation on the card. We are going to respond together and out loud. I am that affirmation. And as we do that, we are speaking life into ourselves and just giving ourselves, really setting ourselves up for success in life. And as we have the thoughts that go through our heads, the thoughts that pass through our heads can be more healthy for us and just make us feel better overall. So like I said, I'm gonna pull a card off the deck. I'm gonna ask you if you are the affirmation. We're gonna respond out loud that we are. We're gonna write it down in the comments, affirm it for each other, and more importantly, internalize it for ourselves. So let's begin by saying that today I am courageous. I am courageous. I act with unwavering faith. So I am courageous. I act with unwavering faith. Are you courageous? I am courageous, and you are courageous too. You act with unwavering faith. Yeah, I chose these high diving boards, and specifically looking up at these high diving boards as a way to really put a visual metaphor to this. So when I was a kid, there was we went over to the pool, to the public pool, and they had just two low diving boards, and they weren't high. The diving boards themselves were maybe 2 or 3 feet above the surface of the water. But I remember as a small kid that those 2 or 3 feet, they seemed like a mile when I was young. And even getting out on the diving board was scary. I don't know if you've ever had that experience or had that feeling, but I watched a lot of other kids do it too. And as I got bigger and got more courageous, I eventually was able to go out onto that diving board and give it a jump into the 12-foot deep water. It wasn't just the diving board that scared me. It was the fact that the water was 12 foot deep. And when we are, and so there were numerous things that I was afraid of. So so I chose this because this was something where I had to act with unwavering faith. I had to have faith that the water would carry me. I had to have faith that the diving board wouldn't break. I had to have faith in myself in order to even go out to the edge of it, that I wasn't, that I wasn't going to fall off or hurt myself. And so I am courageous and I act with unwavering faith. Brenda Jean disagrees with this card. She says courage is moving forward when you are frightened or doubtful. And of course, we could be frightened or doubtful, but still have some faith. I was frightened and doubtful the first time that I jumped into the water, but I had faith that the water would carry me, and I also had faith that I wouldn't sink to the bottom. And so I had to get my, I had to get my mind right and remember that the water had carried me in the 3-foot end and the 4-foot end, and even in the 5-foot end, that I would float on top of the water if I just trusted that I could. And so even the 12-foot end with those very intimidating grates all the way at the bottom that were the drains for the pool, that even at the 12-foot end, and I also would be able to float. And so that's why I used that. That's why I used this as a metaphor. And of course, as I got older, I remember that I saw higher and higher diving boards. There are definitely some pretty high places that I've jumped off of into water as an adult. But every time I see one of these high diving boards, I'm just reminded of all those very seminal memories from youth about the various things that I had to have faith in, the various ways that I had to have trust. And so, while I've never jumped off of a 30-foot diving platform, which is what one of these is, I've certainly jumped off of 30-foot cliffs before into water. And it's the same kind of thing. I had to act with the faith. I had to know, hey, the water's deep enough, and the water will carry me, and the water will stop me before I hit the bottom. So I am courageous, and you are courageous too. We act with unwavering faith. We know that the things that we're doing are going to be for our benefit. And as we get out of our own comfort zones, which is what courage requires, as we get out of our own comfort zones and do things that are different and new for us, we have to have faith in ourselves and our own abilities. We also have to have faith in the process itself. I didn't just have to have faith that the diving board wouldn't break. I had to have faith in my ability to walk down to the end of it without falling off. I had to have faith in the water's ability to carry me even as I jumped into it. And I had to have faith that I wouldn't sink like a stone. And so some of this faith is faith in ourselves. Other of this faith is faith in natural processes. But in the end, we have, when we are courageous, we are acting with the idea that what we are doing isn't going to kill us. It isn't going to hurt us, and rather that it is going to expand us and help us to grow. So I am courageous today. You are courageous. And so let's be strong. Let's be courageous today. Let's do things that are outside of our comfort zone. And and as we do things that are outside of our comfort zone, we are ultimately expanding our own consciousness. We are expanding the limits of what we have done. And once we have done something, it becomes in our minds trivial. Anything that I've accomplished is trivial in my mind, even if it was difficult to accomplish it. And so the flip side of this is that it's really important to understand that we have to give ourselves credit for the things that we do that are hard. So one of the things that I was noticing yesterday as I was doing my work, I had a very good day yesterday. I'm in a sales profession, and being in a sales profession means that there's a lot of variability in the folks that we talk to. Some of these people are sellable, some of them are not sellable, and but all of them that I chat with kind of appear to be the same. And I tend to think to myself that if I was able to move them forward in the process, that they were easy to do, and that if I wasn't unable to do it, that I was somehow inadequate. That they were easy, but I was inadequate to the task. And of course, that's not true. Some people are easier to, some people are more willing, more interested than others. And sometimes the things that I do that seem to make them just so effortlessly whip out their credit card and move forward and make that decision. Go past that decision point. That sometimes there's just the words that I say that made it seem so easy. They actually had no intention whatsoever to do that, and I was able to get them to do it. But they didn't tell me that they had no intention, and so therefore I tend to think that it was easy. I tend to think that the times that I was successful, that it was easy. So we have this like kind of reverse confirmation bias, where the things that we accomplish we think are easy, and the things that we don't accomplish we think are hard. And in the end, we have to have the courage to do them both, because greatness comes from a willingness to suck, a willingness to be bad at things, a willingness to fail, a willingness to do things differently, and to risk that failure in order to understand that the way that we're doing it differently, whether that will work or not. And that requires courage. And we have it. And the folks that I hang around with, the people who are on this broadcast, I know all of you, and I know that you are all very courageous people who have done big things in life and continue to do these big things in life. So I want to say thank you guys so much for coming by today. Looks like a bunch of folks came by while I was chatting. So good morning, Nicole. Nicole says there's no courage without vulnerability. Ooh, I like that. We have to be vulnerable, not just physically, not just in our we have to be vulnerable, not just physically, but we also have to be vulnerable in our minds. We have to grow past our old mindsets. Let's see here. Amanda says, sometimes I forget how courageous I am, but to succeed in spite of what could have kept me in a very low place, I've moved through it courageously. Indeed, you have, Amanda. Let's see here. So yeah, I want to say thank you guys all for coming over to the Wake Up Call. I will return tomorrow at 9 a.m. Same bat time, same bat channel. We are going to go over another one of these cards. Until then, I just want to remind you that I love you and care about you. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you around. And yeah, and I really believe all of these words that I say about you. So I'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Until then, aloha from paradise.